What's up friends, Chook here, and I thought I would just go through the Monster Hunter World gameplay trailer thing that Capcom did, the live stream that they did. It's about 25 minutes or so, and I thought I would just do like a commentary over the top of the video. For anyone out there that's new to Monster Hunter or doesn't really know what's going on, to kind of give you an idea of what's happening, because obviously it's all in Japanese, and if you've never played these games before, it might look a bit confusing or something. So here we can see the map is broken up still into all the different zones. So you can see there's 1, 3, the map's pinging at the moment in 2, 9, 4, etc. All those maps in previous Monster Hunter would be separated by loading screens. So when you would go from zone 1 to 2, for instance, you would have a loading zone. So if you had a monster in zone 1 and you were fighting it and you were getting hurt and everything, you could run to zone 2, the monster would stay in zone 1, you could heal all the rest of it and then go back into zone 1 and keep fighting it. The whole, once you load in, it's seamlessly loaded the whole map, and you basically can't run away. So the map in itself is one big giant map. It's still broken up into those numbers, so you can still do call out stuff like, oh, the monster's in part 6 or something. But yeah, you basically, once you're in the map, that's it. Now you saw that he just collected something there on the fly, like he didn't need to stop and do this big animation. You can just run and collect stuff while you're moving, which is great, as well as eating and stuff as well. Now, here's the first image of, or the first footage of a large monster. It's called a great jagras, and you can see there that he has eaten that herbivore fairly quickly, actually, which is hilarious. And he's going to run back to his lair and regurgitate it up and feed his young. Now, this is really cool because it means that in previous Monster Hunter games, you would go out and do a hunt. So the monster they're hunting in this gameplay demo is called Anjanath, which is the big T-Rex looking thing, which is a new monster to the Monster Hunter series. And there would be, sometimes you would have quests where it would say danger in the description, and there would be a chance of another monster coming in to that hunt. So say you did a Monster Hunter quest for Anjanath and it had a danger on it, then the Rathalos might show up, or it might not. Whereas in this gameplay demo, they've got the Great Jagras, the Anjanath, and the Rathalos all existing in the same map, all just coexisting, their own ecosystems and all that sort of stuff. So sometimes they might be there, they might not. The Rathalos might fly in, fly out, a different monster might appear, whatever. So it's like a whole living, breathing world, which is cool. Now here you can see the scout flies. That's what these little green bug things are. They're on your person, and when you find like tracks, like there you can see the footprint. And just before that, he found some snot on the tree. You basically get your scout flies to go and here's some more snot here, I think. And yeah, and you collect it and you examine it, and then your scout flies level up. And once they've leveled up enough times, they get whiff of the monster basically, and will seek it out, which is what's happening right now. And you can see there, he just ran past that little bush and collected it on the fly. Any Monster Hunter veterans and stuff will know that in all, previous games and everything, you would always have an animation. Basically, anytime you did anything, collecting something, using an item, anything like that, there would be an animation. Now it's a lot more seamless, and you can run around and do things while running. Now to combat that whole, I guess the reason why, to combat the fact that you can't go from like zone 1 to zone 2 with a loading screen and leave the monster behind so you can heal and all the rest of it, they have brought in these stealth mechanics. So you saw there that he was sitting in that bush there, and he was in stealth. The other cool thing is in previous Monster Hunter games, I'm going to link link it back to previous Monster Hunter games, because that's why I'm doing this video, to show what's new and what's different for people that may not be aware. But in previous Monster Hunter games, basically as soon as you entered the zone with a monster in it, and as soon as the monster saw you, it was on. It wanted your blood. There was no ifs or buts. Like as soon as the monster saw you, then it would start attacking you. Here you saw that the hunter use his little slingshot thing on his wrist to shoot some rocks and stuff to lure the monster like down the corridor a little bit, because he didn't want to fight him in such close range. And the monster was just like, well, you're not really a threat, I don't really care. And then as soon as he shot him in the face, then the monster's like, well, you know what, you shot me in the face, screw you, now I'm going to attack you. So that's really cool that the monsters aren't necessarily that scared of you. And the great Jagras before as well, when he ate that herbivore, they just don't really see you as a threat. And some will. I'm sure that all monsters won't be plastered until you attack them. Some will be just super aggressive and attack you on sight. I'm sure of it. But it's cool that they've got that they're really trying to step up the game as far as the living, breathing world where, you know, it makes sense. Like, if you're a massive T-Rex looking thing and this little just, you know, monkey looking guy, I guess, to you comes, you know, you're not going to be particularly worried. Now, this is another thing I was talking about the living, breathing ecosystem is there's a food chain. And so the great Jagras, bit of a tongue twister, is obviously lower on the food chain than the Anjanath. So he's come in, and the Anjanath is like, well, you know what, I'm gonna fuck you up, and so he does. And so you can use this kind of stuff to your advantage. So if you were hunting the great Jagras as your hunt, you could lure it to the Anjanath, or go and find the Anjanath and lure it to him if you knew that they were in the same map. And, you know, get them to fight and you know, help you do the mission, because they're going to do massive damage to each other, which is really cool. Now, I'm sure that there will be a lot of strategy with this, like hunting, like, you know, luring monsters to other monsters and all the rest of it. But I hope it's not a main feature that you have to do every single hunt, or that it just makes the game a bit too easy, because Monster Hunter is really hard. It's a really challenging game. It's a very skillful game. It's kind of like a Dark Souls boss fight, but the boss fights go for like half an hour. So getting like a lot of damage cheaply done from another monster could be, I don't know, we'll have to see how that goes, but I definitely like that that's able to do it, because again, in previous Monster Hunter games, monsters could hit each other, but it was more out of chance. Like if they were next to each other and they did some attack animations and they clipped, then they would do damage to each other, but they didn't ever actually like attack each other, whereas in this they do, which is really cool. So yeah, at the moment he's just attacking the Anjanath. Now you can see down the bottom left hand side is your minimap. So that was red when they were fighting, and it's now gone white. So the Anjanath is just like, you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm just running away. So it's just doing its own thing, going to feed or just minding its own business now. It's like, I've had enough of this little annoying humanoid, I'm just going to piss off. And so it's run out and into a different zone. And you've got the scout flies following it the whole time as well to, you know, to keep track of it and stuff. And you can see here there's this tree with some vines on it. And again, the Anjanath isn't particularly worried about you anymore. He's just like, well, whatever. But as soon as you jumped and did a mounting attack, so basically in Monster Hunter games since Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, I think it was, there is the ability to mount monsters. So every monster will have a mount threshold, and when you do enough damage to them in the air, then you will mount them, and then they will get like exponentially more threshold. So say it takes 100 mounting damage to mount it the first time, it might take 150 the next time, it might 200 the next time, etc. Anyway, you mount the monster, you do a lot of damage to it, and eventually you will topple it. In previous games, you would just be on the monster and you would just hold down a button and to hold on, and you would just tap another button to attack. Whereas in this, you can actually move around the monster and go from, you know, from its head to its tail to its, you know, body, probably to its legs. On bigger monsters, it'll obviously be a lot more in depth. Where you can go and what you can do, and you can probably target different parts of the monster and stuff while you're mounting. Now I wish that this stream was a little bit better quality, but you know, you just got to do with what you've got, I guess. So apologies that it's a little bit you know, probably 720, 480p, whatever it is by the time this is converted and everything. But yeah, it's just to get an idea of what's new about the game and what the game basically is, like I said, if you're new to the series. So you can see the minimap here is glowing red, which means that the Anjanath is just going to follow him no matter what. He's in an enraged mode, so you saw before that his nostrils flared up and his wings came out. And monsters will go from being just normal to enraged, where they have new attack patterns, hit a lot harder, and see here now he's breathing fire, which he wasn't doing before, and just in general a lot more dangerous. You can also get monsters to be tired and exhausted and stuff, and you'll see them most likely panting and things like that, and that's when their attacks are a lot weaker. Sometimes they fall over because they're so tired, all that sort of thing. So the longer you fight, the more exhausted you will make the monster, and similarly, the more you fight and the more you do damage to it and stuff, it'll break out of just being like, okay, I'm fighting you, to being like super pissed off and get enraged and stuff. So it's a really cool mechanic that just makes every fight feel a bit different, because it's not like like boss fights in like phased fights in MMOs or something like that, you know, where you get the boss to 50%, something will happen, and then you get him to 30%, something else will happen. It's just naturally as you're fighting, depending on how much damage you're doing, how quickly and stuff, it'll get enraged, or if the fight's going for ages, it'll get tired, etc, etc. So anyway, he's using this Anjanath's enraged ability, well, when he's enraged, to follow him everywhere to his advantage to bring him up to the Rathalos. So again, this is the whole pecking order food chain. The Rathalos is obviously a much more dominant predator than the Anjanath, and has decided to go, what the fuck are you doing in my nest, get out of here, and has gone and killed him, well, not killed him, but done a lot of damage. You saw, I don't know if you can see the damage numbers there, it's quite hard to see, but that did 1,181 damage. And these just sword strikes that he's doing with this greatsword is doing anywhere from like 8 to 30. So you can, that's what I was saying before about you really using it to your advantage. The monsters do tremendous damage to each other. So that's a really cool mechanic. I just hope it's not used too much and like cheesed too much. But again, this is the only gameplay we've got. We'll have to see how it goes. So here he's just fighting the Rathalos, which is not part of the hunt. The hunt was obviously to fight the Anjanath, but I hope that this is what Monster Hunter World is going to do. And like I was saying before, in previous Monster Hunter games, there was a danger element where it would say danger, and on a hunt, on certain hunts at least, and there might be a different monster might show up or might not. It's the same in this, but this is a seamless open world with the, you know, so these monsters might just come and go, and might not just be scripted to be there at all times and stuff, which is really cool. So you can see here, he's just fighting this Rathalos, kind of not really doing too much to it, and having a bit of issues with him actually. So he ends up shooting a flare into the sky. And that is the ability to call his friends in to help him with the hunt, because he was hunting the Anjanath and decided, oh shit, now there's a Rathalos, I need help. So he's got his friends in now, which is really cool. You can seamlessly join in and drop out, drop in, drop out of the multiplayer, which is awesome, because in previous games you would have to all sign up and be in the lobby before you went on a hunt. And so if you had 3 people, for instance, and you were waiting for a 4th for 10 minutes and there was no 4th, and then you went into the hunt and then a 4th person joined the lobby a minute after you started the hunt, they would have to wait. Whereas now they can just come in and you put a flare and they can just come in, which is awesome. You saw some more destructible terrain there where the hunter perked the dam and flushed down the Rathalos and himself. And other hunters is there as well. So that's really cool that you can, in every map, there will be destructible things and terrain that you can use to your advantage and or disadvantage. And now it's showing off the multiplayer part of the hunt. So remember that the main part of this hunt is to hunt the Anjanath, not the Rathalos. But this Rathalos isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So the blue square, the blue player there, has mounted the Rathalos and is currently trying to bring him down. And we can see that the other players are either trying to help fight or just catch up and get to the action. So the red square there, that's the hammer. And there's some really cool new abilities or new attacks with each weapon that they've brought in. And the hammer will see one shortly, a new attack, which is really cool actually. It looks amazing. And the bow as well. So the bow has the ability, at least in this hunt, I'm not sure if it's the type of bow or the ammo casing or who don't know, but where he'll fire a shot and then he'll fire another shot, and then the third shot he'll like scrape the arrow on the ground and like strike it ablaze, and then he'll have like a free fire arrow, or a fire arrow. Again, it could be fire casings for the fire ammo for the arrows. Or it could just be that's a cool thing that the arrow can do, that the bow and arrow can do now. We'll have to find out. We'll have to wait and see. So there they've toppled the Rathalos, and now they're all just laying into it. And it's focusing on the hammer user here. Now with the hammer, it does KO damage, which means that, similar to what I was saying before about the mounting a monster, the more damage you do in the air, you will eventually mount it. The more KO damage you do to a monster, you eventually KO it and knock it out. KO damage is done by hitting a monster in the head, and the hammer is like the go-to KO damage weapon. So when you're playing a hammer, you basically, like, if you're not hitting the monster in the head, you're doing it wrong type thing. That's the kind of thought pattern you want. You always want to be hitting the monster in the head, or as much as you possibly can when you're using the hammer. Now the other weapons at the moment is the green square is the lance, which they never really showed off too much actually. Like I always was generally just watching the big screen, the big square, but there is the lance there, and they have the greatsword still in the middle, and the bow in the bottom right hand corner. But I'm fairly sure it's the greatsword will change to a longsword soon, and show off. Well, here we go. Here's the map again. I think this is where he does it actually. There are different base camps around the map as well once you discover them, and you can use like every hunter has his own access to his own pet wyvern type thing, which he's just seen there. He's just whistled and brought it, and that has fast traveled him to one of these home base type things, which is awesome. And this also shows off the Palico system as well. Palico is basically your little cat. You can see him there sitting on the bed. So this allows you to change items and equipment and everything mid-hunt, which is brand new. Before this, you would have to go into a hunt. Before you launched the hunt, you would have to pick your ammo. If you were using a gunner gear, you would have to pick your armor, your weapons, your items, everything. And then once you're in a hunt, that was it. You could find items out in the hunt and everything, but once you went in, that was all you had. Whereas now, because this is the whole like living, breathing ecosystem, all that sort of stuff, and things are constantly changing, and monsters are coming in and out and all the rest of it, they're giving you the ability to go to a base camp and change your gear set out, which is freaking cool, actually. It's really cool. So again, if you're fighting an Anjanath, so that might be weak to fire, for instance. Let's just hypothetically, we don't know. You could be taking in, say, top screen, the blue screen that has that longsword I was talking about. You could take in a fire longsword, for example. And then all of a sudden the Rathalos shows up and you're like, oh shit, Rathalos does fire damage, therefore fire damage isn't going to do much to him. I need to change out to, like, say, a lightning weapon or something. So you might then go back to base camp, put on your fire defensive gear, and put on your lightning weapon, and then that way you can do a lot more damage to the Rathalos. Maybe you kill the Rathalos, and then you go back and put all the other gear back to take on the Anjanath, which is cool. Now you can see here that the Anjanath is sleeping. It's recovering its health and everything from that big fight before, and then the Rathalos kicking its ass. And you can also see on all the different screens, they put these barrels around him. So barrel bombing is a technique in Monster Hunter where if a monster's sleeping, it will take double damage from weapons and triple damage from items. So there are items called barrel bombs, large barrel bombs, small barrel bombs, all the rest of it. So you just, but the gist of it is you get a monster to sleep, whether how they did it in this, naturally from the monster being tired from the fight or everything, or you can use weapons with like a sleep thing on it, sleep coating type thing on it, and put the monster to sleep, and then you can put barrel bombs down basically, and then blow the crap out of it for massive damage. Now watch the hammer at the top screen here. He does this cool like spin move, which was amazing. When I saw that, I lost my shit because I quite like the hammer. I don't play it as much as other weapons, but that move is cool. So it looks like in this game as well, you can slide down hills, which is what he's doing there. And then from there, he's done this big launching jump attack. So obviously he's done enough damage, or the group has done enough aerial damage to get a mount off. So he's mounted, and you saw he was on the back now he's on the tail, and he's just wailing on the tail. And he's jumped back up onto the back. And so while say you've mounted and you've got your 3 bodies, your bodies can continually attack the monster as well, or you can take that time to put down traps, heal up, whatever. So generally, if someone's mounted a monster, that's a really good time for you to do anything you need to do, sharpen your weapon, drink a potion, that sort of stuff. So the monster is now down, toppled again, and the hammer goes in and does the big massive swing and gets a big hammer swing off on his face as well. And you saw there that the hammer user actually launched the, I think it was the heavy bowgun user actually, into the air. So there is friendly fire in this game. It doesn't do damage. You can't actually hurt each other, but you can knock each other around. So particularly big heavy weapons like the great sword, the hammer, and switch axe and things like this, you can actually attack and hit your teammates and send them flying. This can be used to your advantage. So if the hammer did that big upswing and send his friend flying into the air, his friend then could then attack the monster from the air and potentially mount him. But you've just got to be wary that when you're battling with friends that you don't just go in and attack, wildly and end up just sending everybody flying. So the longsword is a good culprit of this. It doesn't send people flying, but there's you can basically like trip your friends. So while they're attacking, they kind of just they trip and lose their combos and can't attack for a bit while they get their footing. So yeah, that's a thing to be cautious of. But it looks like the streamlined controls and everything in this game and the animations, it should be a lot easier to avoid that. Here's a good opportunity to look at the heavy bowgun. It's kind of like a Gatling gun. Again, I'm not sure if that's a particular type of heavy bowgun or ammo type or skill or something. We just don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's definitely cool because gunners are underappreciated in Monster Hunter. They're definitely the lesser played class out of Blade Master and Gunner. Like definitely Blade Masters are played more. So that could bring a lot of cool things to the Gunner class or the Gunner species. Species? Not really species. You know what I mean. Sub thing of weapons, which is cool. Now, what they're about to do is they're about to chop the Anjanath's tail off, if I believe. If I remember correctly. And that's another thing with these Monster Hunter games, and this is no different, that you can target the enemy monsters' different body parts and potentially cut parts off as well. So if you need an Anjanath tail for the armor you want to craft or the weapon you want to craft, then you need to cut off its tail. You can't get it any other way. Same thing if you needed, say, the Rathalos's horns, say, for instance. You would have to smack the crap out of its head and break its horns. What else? If you needed something claws, again, smack the crap out of its feet, etc., etc. So it's really cool that if you need a particular piece of the monster, that you need to target that particular part of the monster. It just makes it that more exciting and cool to go out and fight something, especially with friends, and not just go in and hit it anywhere you want and get the same result. You actually have to target where you want to hit the monster, depending on what type of gear you want. You will just get generic gear parts of the monster for killing it, like you'll get Anjanath pelt and da 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 da. But if you need those particular pieces, that's how you do it. Here you can see the barrel bombing again. Set up barrels all around the monster's head. The heavy bowgun has just blown it up and done huge damage there to the Anjanath. And they've toppled it just by, again, doing multiple bits of damage and just constantly harassing the crap out of the monster and attacking its legs, all that sort of stuff. You can get it to fall over and all these sort of things. So there you go, there's the tail off. They've just cut it off. It was a bit hard to see, but you'll see that his tail is a bit stumpy now. And there is his tail just laying on the ground that you can go and carve. And you can see his leg there, he's got this massive scar on it. So they've obviously done significant damage to his leg as well. So, if they needed, I don't know, Anjanath, something to do with his leg, then that they've successfully done that onto that leg at least. They've destroyed that leg. Or done enough damage to it for it to count. And that's a new attack for the longsword as well. I think the player that playing the longsword only hits it once in this whole hunt, and you saw that just before, where he launched himself into the air. But it's pretty cool. I like the fact that they've streamlined, well, not streamlined the weapons, but like brought the weapons back from all the hunting arts and stuff from Generations and Double Cross and stuff, but given them new flavor and everything. I think that's really cool. And that's basically the end of the hunt. So now they just carve up the monster as normal, which you cannot do while running around. Stuff like that and mining and everything you need to still do while staying still. But other things like collecting honey and herbs and stuff you can do just while running. And there it is, quest clear. So, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that made a little bit more sense of what's going on. You can see here the victory screen and what gear they're getting and stuff. Because I know for non-Monster Hunter people that are excited about this game, that whole thing in Japanese and not really knowing much about the game in general, or the series in general, were like, what the hell's going on? Like, it looks amazing, what's going on? So hopefully that gave you a bit more in-depth idea of what's happening and stuff. And honestly, Monster Hunter Online with friends is the best multiplayer experience I think I've had ever. It's so good. I can't rave about it enough, and I'm so excited for this game to come out, as well as Dauntless. So, yeah. Either way, let me know if that helped you out. Let me know if you're excited as I am for this game to come out, and yeah, just let me know your thoughts in the comments below. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.